Good evening. It's Wednesday, February 22nd. Time for our news. I'm Konstantinos Tsindas. Turkish Cypriot leader Mustafa Akinci has pulled out of the negotiations for a Cyprus settlement, informing the United Nations that he will not be attending a scheduled meeting with President Anastasiadis tomorrow. His decision not to attend the meeting was communicated to the UN's Special Representative in Cyprus, Elizabeth Speha, shortly after Akinci held talks with Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu. Speha conveyed Akinci's refusal to attend tomorrow's session to President Anastasiadis during a meeting earlier today. Speha said after the meeting that she had nothing to say at the moment, adding that she would communicate with the US Secretary's Special Envoy on Cyprus, Espen Barthaire. Government spokesman Nikos Christodoulidis said in his Twitter account that President Anastasiadis had been informed by Speha that because of the refusal of the Turkish Cypriot leader to take part in tomorrow's scheduled meeting, this will not take place. Christodoulidis had earlier stated that the conclusion from meetings with Turkish Cypriot groups supporting a settlement is that Akinci is distancing himself from efforts to reach an agreement. President Anastasiadis had yet another meeting today with representatives of Turkish Cypriot civil society groups discussing the developments. President Anastasiadis had said last night, after hardline statements by Akinci and Turkey's foreign minister, that he was determined to continue the dialogue for a Cyprus settlement. He further added that he would be present at tomorrow's meeting, adding that if Akinci wanted a Cyprus settlement, he should join him for negotiations. Akinci said the reason for pulling out of the negotiations is a so-called Enosis vote in Parliament, in which a slim majority of dissent parties voted for an amendment to an educational reform law that would require teachers to make a short speech on the anniversary of a 1950 referendum for union with Greece. The referendum expressed the will of Greek Cypriots for Enosis, which however had been abandoned as an official policy when Cyprus became independent in 1960. Akinci demanded abrogation of the amendment and said it was a move in the right direction, a law introduced in Parliament by ruling the C to transfer powers to decide which anniversaries to be mentioned in schools to the Ministry of Education. Anastasiadis accused Akinci of using the vote, which he described as wrong and immaterial for the negotiations, as a pretext to stall the process. He pointed out that 22 months of important progress during the talks cannot be driven to a deadlock because of an historical reference that does not express the policy of any political faction. He further complained that Akinci was making personal attacks on him and added that patience has its limits. The C party leader, Averof Neophytou, has said the vote in Parliament on the Enosis amendment was untimely, unneeded and wrong. He further admitted that his party's decision to abstain from voting was also wrong, as it gave the opportunity to the extreme right-wing Elam to pass its amendment with the votes of other small opposition parties. Main opposition party Akel had voted against the amendment, but its 16 votes were not enough to prevent its approval. Neophytou said the law introduced by the C in Parliament will annul the amendment, as it will transfer competency on anniversary celebrations to the Ministry of Education. He added, however, that the proposed law has to be approved after following the procedure prescribed by regulations. However, he also pointed out that the Enosis amendment was used by the Turkish side as an excuse, as it had never objected to the public celebration of the April 1st anniversary, which marks an armed uprising for Enosis. Greece has said that Akinci is using a pretext to justify his refusal to attend tomorrow's scheduled meeting with Anastasiadis. Greek diplomatic sources also said that Akinci gives the impression that he is not interested anymore in the solution of the Cyprus problem. Meanwhile, Greek Foreign Minister Nikos Kotsias said in an interview with an Athens television channel that Turkey knows that its weak point in Cyprus negotiations is its insistence on maintaining troops in Cyprus and guarantees. He said that the Turkish government has not decided yet how to handle the issue, and for this reason it has been constantly raising new issues in the negotiations so as to draw the attention away from their security problem. Thousands of Greeks attended a rally in the centre of Athens last night protesting at new austerity measures demanded by Greece's international lenders. The issue of new measures and talks between Greece and its lenders was being discussed in Berlin today between German Chancellor Angela Merkel and European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker. German Finance Minister Wolfgang Schäuble continues his hard line towards Greece, saying that the implementation of reforms was the top priority for Greece and that the question of debt was often used as an excuse. Schäuble said that reforms were necessary as it was important that Greece gets into the path of growth. Klaus Regling, head of the European Stability Mechanism, said that Greece will probably be able to borrow money on the markets from the middle of next year, and if the next 18 months are put to good use, Athens probably won't need another bailout. President Donald Trump's administration plans to consider almost all illegal immigrants to the United States subject to deportation. Official guidelines released by the Department of Homeland Security will exclude immigrants known as dreamers who entered the United States illegally as children. DHS officials, on a conference call with reporters, said that although any immigrant in the country illegally could be deported, the agency will prioritize those deemed a threat. These include recent entrants, those convicted of a crime, and people charged but not convicted of a crime. Many of the new instructions will not be implemented immediately because they depend on Congress, a public comment period, or negotiations with other nations. Mexican immigration officials immediately objected to part of the new rules. Back to local news, and an off-duty policeman prevented the burglary of a jeweller's shop in the tourist Katopafos area close to the city's picturesque ports. The policeman, who was attached to the security of European Parliament members visiting Paphos, saw a truck ramming the front of a jeweller's shop. He ran towards the 4 people in the vehicle, and 2 of them fled immediately. The other 2 set the car on fire and also ran away. That was it for our news. Now look at the weather. Mostly clear skies are initially expected tomorrow. Winds will be light southwesterly to northwesterly, force 3, becoming moderate in the afternoon, force 4 with slight seas. Temperatures will reach 19 degrees Celsius inland and in coastal regions, and 8 over the mountains. Mostly fine over the next 3 days with a cloud cover at times. Temperatures will remain unchanged. That's all from us. Join us again tomorrow for more news in English. Have a very good evening.